Hey friends, this is Eunice. Thank you for joining me today. Today I have on my channel my dear friend Tracey Truby. Now, Tracey and I have been friends for probably about 10 years, and we've been in and out of contact just because we met in Kansas City when we lived there together, and then we have both like moved throughout places.
Yeah.
So I just have loved reconnecting with Tracey, and just something so unique about her journey that I got to witness firsthand was just she and her husband had two boys, and they, when we lived in Kansas City, just had a huge burden to adopt. Now, some of my listeners know that my husband and I were also on a journey trying to adopt for 2 years in that season as well. Ours did not end up working out, but we were open just to the Lord's leading. But it was so beautiful to see just how the Lord expanded Tracey's family through the gift of adopting two separate times and two beautiful babies. And so I just wanted to have her on today to just share about her adoption experience and just to give you guys also a clue into our families, just to not cause confusion. Both Tracey and I, our husbands are named Chris. So, so if you hear her talking about her Chris, it's a separate Chris from my Chris. So Tracey, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your intro and who you guys are as a family?
So yes, I'm so happy to be visiting with you this morning, Eunice. Eunice has been such a true friend to me over the years, and I've been so blessed to know her and her whole family. And so yes, my husband and I have been in ministry our entire married lives. We were missionaries for about 10 years overseas, and then for about 5 years at IHOP KC International House of Prayer, and that's where Eunice and I know each other. And so yeah, it was during our years at International House of Prayer that the Lord really told us that it was the timing was now for our adoptions. And I have four kids now. My oldest son is about to turn 20, Victor, and then I have a 17-year-old who will be 18 soon, Max. And then my two daughters are 10, Zoe, and 7, Tess.
Oh, that is amazing. What a beautiful family you have. Okay, so we are going to jump into the questions. Tracey, can you please share with us about what led you to adopt your two youngest ones?
Okay, so when I think back on it, I can actually see, like, all the way back to childhood, how the Lord was planting seeds in my heart for adoption, even long before I was saved. And it's really interesting now to remember that when I had my first son, and became a mom for the first time, I would hear him cry, like he'd be in his crib waking up from a nap, and I would immediately like have compassion and think, what about all the kids in the world that when they cry like this, there's no one to go and pick them up from their crib? They just cry
Oh,
and they have no mom. So I feel like the Lord was just seeding my heart, even from the very beginning of my motherhood journey. And then I actually had a dream after I'd had my two sons. I had had really bad pregnancies and some hemorrhaging and some medical issues. And so we were strongly advised not to have any other children. And then when we were living in Amsterdam, I had a dream, and um, I don't have a lot of dreams. This was a very unusual occurrence for me where I was actually in heaven and I went into a meeting room, like a business meeting room, and there were pictures all over a table of a little girl, and she had blonde curly hair, and I just like fell in love with her at first glance. And in the dream I was like, who is she? And all of a sudden it just hit my heart that this is your daughter. And in the dream I like fell to the ground just crying, like fell on my face crying and praising God. And so I remember waking up from that dream and trying to tell my husband, and I was crying, and just like I knew that God had a daughter for us. And I really thought it was going to be a biological daughter, but I just didn't know yet. God just hadn't revealed that side of it yet. But then when we came to Kansas City, one of their prayer mantras as a praying community was the ending of abortion in this generation. And I think that whole community, because they're praying that, have God's heart for children, for adopted children, for the children that are being aborted. And one of the things they would say there was, we can't just tell these girls that are in desperate situations not to abort their children if we're not going to provide a home for the children. So I remember hearing that, and it kind of like almost upsetting me, like, well, honestly, I really didn't want to adopt. And at that point, I really did not want to expand my family. I was in my late 30s. My boys were getting older. I was never a person that was like, I can't wait to grow up and have a huge family and a ton of kids. Like 2 kids was plenty in my, economy. And so anyway, then we were actually just in the beginning of our time at IHOP, and we went through intro to IHOP just to join the community. And that was like an internship. And they had this man come and speak to us that was a Holocaust survivor. And he had such a powerful, extremely sad story. He had survived for years in concentration camps and as a child. And he told the story of, as soon as he got there, being separated from his mom in the concentration camp. And then, this is horrible, but during his years there, he was sexually abused a lot as a child. And as an adult, when he got out and, he became a Christian, and he had a really redemptive, beautiful story, but he had to have like quite a few surgeries to correct the damage that had been done to him from sexual abuse in the concentration camp. And it was just a horrific story, honestly. And I remember the day I heard him speak, I was in my kitchen and I was just thinking about it. And I was thinking, gosh, I can't imagine if something like that ever happened to one of my sons. And the Lord just spoke to me really clearly and said, I see it happening to my children every day, and I'm asking you to adopt. Are you going to do it or not? And so my husband had already kind of said yes to it, and I was kind of fighting it. But it was in that moment I felt like I really surrendered and just said, yes, I will.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a powerful story.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And so, okay, what has been the best thing about adoption and one of the most challenging things? Now, you had 2 separate adoptions, so I know that it's kind of like mixing 2
Yeah.
different stories, but I would love to hear at least one of them.
Okay. Just kind of FYI, both of our daughters were just completely separate adoptions, both through private adoption agencies. They're not related to each other in any way. But I would say the most really amazing thing about adoption from A to Z has been just really partnering with God in something that we were invited into this story by God. It wasn't our desire or our decision as much as it was him saying, will you do this with me? And us saying yes. And just really getting to partner with him in that. Again, back to International House of Prayer, one of the things that we were kind of, I guess, mentored to pray was, Lord, give me your heart for people, for different specific people or issues. And I just really feel like I've experienced that firsthand with my daughters. I've really had a sense of the Lord's heart. The Lord has a plan for these little girls, and he has just moved mountains to write their story in the way that he wants it to go. And there's been a lot of spiritual warfare during the adoptions. I'm sure you remember. It was incredible spiritual warfare, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone because it was hard. but it was, we made it, and the girls are ours now. So I would say that was probably one of the more challenging things. But also, as far as challenging goes, is this might not be the most popular thing to say about adoption, but really it is plan B. God created us to have our children and raise our children ourselves. And so, I think the children themselves, they always have a sense of this was plan B. There's a lot of loss that they've experienced in life at a young age from the very beginning, and there's really no way to erase that. Like, they have lost their entire biological family. And it's also, it's challenging to be able to share their stories with them in age appropriate ways without lying, I've had a lot of people say to me, like, why would you even tell your kids that they're adopted? But to me, I feel like, that's just never been, I guess I've just always been a fairly transparent person. I'm going to do my best to tell you the truth, no matter what you ask me. And I just feel like to wake up one day at 16, 18, 20, whenever they figured it out, and go, oh my gosh, I've been lied to my whole life, would be so not right.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful. Okay. How did the Lord encourage you when you faced these challenging circumstances? So when challenges have arisen or different obstacles, how has the Lord helped you through that?
Honestly, it has been challenging, and both of my daughters are precious, but they've both just been, one of them was real highly alcohol exposed in the womb. And so she was a very hard baby. She cried a lot, and she's doing great now, but just stronger personalities, I guess, just different challenges within the parenting we've done so far. They're still really young, but I think that a friend of mine who's also adoptive mom said to me one time, it's not our job to fix everything, to fix them, or any of our kids for that matter, or our friends, or, our husbands. And it's not our job to fix them. It's just our job to walk beside them and be there, be their, I guess, guide in this life. But I think that was actually very freeing for me, because I realized I'll never be able to make all the wrong things right, but I can listen, I can acknowledge. One really interesting thing is that adopted children tend to get sad on their birthdays. And we were actually told that would be the case by our social worker. And I have seen that with one, that when her birthday rolls around, she gets very reflective, and, it makes them think about the day they were born, and it makes them think about their mom, their biological mother. And so, to be able to say it's real, like, you have really had profound loss in your life, and I'm sorry, and I love you, and I'm thankful that I've gotten to be a part of your story and be your mother, and that's a gift. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to be sad on your birthday, because so far she has been. So yeah, I can't even remember what you just asked, but
How has the Lord encouraged you through those challenging times?
yeah, I think he's just encouraged me with the knowledge of, there are things about it that will be challenging, and that's okay. You just hang in there with her.
I love that advice your friend gave you about, like, not having to fix everything,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's definitely something I struggle with.
Uh,
And I think humans in general, or as moms, even like moms, we want to fix everything. We don't like to see our kids in pain.
mhm.
But to, like you said, just kind of be the hand holding her through her
Mhm.
pain, because that
Yeah.
is very painful, the abandonment and the
Mhm.
questions and the uncertainty.
Mhm. For
Yeah.
sure.
Wow.
Agree.
Yeah, that was awesome advice.
Sorry, let me
So,
say one real quick. I
yeah.
think is that a lot of people want to like really romanticize adoption and say, "Oh, well, it's just amazing. Your life story is completely 100% amazing," which it is, but there's the good, the bad, and the ugly with adoption. It's
Mm,
not all amazing and it's not all beautiful. Some of it's really sad and really hard.
mhm. Wow.
Mhm.
I I love that though, in the sense like that you're admitting that, but also in the sense that that's the kind of thing the Lord walks us through. In the
Yes.
good, in the bad, in the ugly, he's there with us, holding our
Abs-
hand, And so you're right, like the pain of life and like circumstances in life, the fallenness of man,
Yes.
and all those things just like compounded in someone's life when at first they're abandoned in a
Mm,
sense until the Lord places them in a family. And um what a beautiful picture of the Lord, really, that you and Chris have been, and your boys, to these girls,
thank you.
because it's like in that broken place you guys have walked alongside their real, very real pain.
Hmm.
So wow. Okay. Uh-huh.
Too, that people think that when they're adopted at birth, that they're
uh
not any of those type issues.
mm,
But I think that, we are spirit first before we are flesh and bones and personality and all of that. And I think in our spirit, man, they actually have an understanding that this was plan B, and I almost feel like nobody would even have to tell them that. And somewhere deep down, they feel that and they know that.
mm, yeah. Wow. I love also, I want to say just how you and Chris have been transparent with them about their adoption, because that's
You.
true. It's as they know that they can face that pain. Otherwise, it's just like, what's this random pain I feel? You know what I
Yes.
mean? But like you guys acknowledging that, you guys loving them through that
Mm.
and supporting them through that, I think is tremendous.
Yeah, and I would also like to say that, everyone has to be led by the Lord and do it their own way. I know, I don't want to belittle someone not sharing with their child that they're adopted or sharing later in life. I think that each circumstance is so different in each culture and, specific family, that just because that's the way we felt like it was right for us to do it doesn't mean that's the way. There's no textbook answers for any of this.
Mhm. Yeah, that's real. Thank you for saying that. Okay, next question. What miracles have you seen through adopting?
um we've seen quite a few. One of my favorite stories is that it took us about a year to get matched with the birth mother that of our first daughter, Zoe. And that was kind of a roller coaster ride. You were right beside me through that whole thing. But the way that it works is they have you put together a portfolio of your family, and then they show it to moms who are pregnant, and they choose the family that they would like to place their child with. And so we kept getting shown and we weren't being chosen, and it was just a very emotional roller coaster ride. And then but we felt like at one point that the Lord told us she's a girl and her name is Life.
Hmm.
And so we, on our list of names, we had the name Zoe, and we were like, okay, well, we're going to name her Zoe for sure now, because the Lord said her name is Life and Zoe means life. And so we finally got matched with our birth mom, and she was 6 months pregnant, and she asked to have a phone conversation with me. And while we were on the phone, she told me, I have a name I've been calling my daughter through my whole pregnancy. And I was like, okay, what is it? And she said Zoe. So
Whoa.
both had the same name. And it had been such a long journey. We were like, this is definitely God, and this is definitely our daughter that yeah, it just was like his fingerprints on it, which made it really special.
That's awesome. I'm sure I knew that story 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's
But I
wild.
love hearing it again because it feels like I have chills. I'm like, that's amazing.
And
Um,
another interesting thing is that dream I had in Amsterdam was of my second daughter, Tess. So,
mm,
thing that God showed me Tess, even though he didn't show me Zoe, and I had Zoe, we adopted Zoe first, not even knowing we were going to adopt another one. So,
wow.
uh,
I love that. I love that too, like, because for Zoe's birth mom, I feel like that would have been so confirming for her too. Like,
abs-
what? Like, we have the same name in mind. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Of all the names out there, that we would have the same name. And yeah, we both had a good cry about that. And I think that was like very bonding for us from day one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just, I'm sure the Lord used that just as such a reassurance for her too. Like,
Yes, I think.
know that her daughter is going to be in a good, loving family, you
And
know?
like, this is meant to be, even whatever spiritual understanding she had, I think she
hmm
really sensed that this is meant to be.
I love that. Wow. Okay, so last question is, do you have any last encouraging words to share with those listening?
Um, so first of all, I really believe that adoption is a calling. I think that it's really not something that every single Christian is meant to do, and or every single person. I mean, I know that it's biblical, and therefore a lot of us might feel like, okay, well, that's something I need to do then. But in all reality, I've seen families torn apart through adoption because they were not prepared for what they were going to have to walk through. And I think that you just really need to know that this is God calling you. And I know a lot of people do it because of infertility issues, which is extremely legitimate. If you're not, if you're not able to conceive, then adoption is a beautiful way to go. We actually have one of my husband's brothers has 4 adopted children for that. Well, it
Oh,
started out being for that reason. And so, yeah, but also I would just say, you know, at the end of the day, children really are a blessing from the Lord.
mhm.
And whether they're easy or hard, they're really like the most valuable thing on the planet, and definitely the most valuable thing in our homes. And when we were at International House of Prayer, where we adopted, and our family went from having 2 children to 4, it was so celebrated and embraced. And there were so many families, so much bigger than even you and I's, people with 10 kids and 12 kids. And it was wild. But, we moved back to where we're from, and just a kind of a typical bigger US city. And it's taken me a while to discern that, just our culture really gives moms and dads, the sometimes unspoken message that children are not a blessing from the Lord, but we know
Mm,
they really are. And, I just think that it's sad. Like, I feel like when I moved back here, I kind of got the message from even family members and friends that, oh, poor you, you have 4 kids, you know, poor you, you're a stay-home mom, and poor you, your kids are, not going to be out of your home for many years, things like that, that just, it's easy to let that get on you, when in reality, any of our children, whether they're biological or adopted, are a blessing from the Lord, and they are his reward to us in this life. And
amen.
yeah, so I really want to be a person that carries that mantra, because I think it's so needed. I mean, hence we have the millions of babies that are aborted every year, because in our culture, we feel that everything else is more important than children. And that, oh, poor you, you're going to be burdened with this child. And really there's no greater joy than,
Mm,
loving someone throughout their life, and the friendship. I mean, you and I know now your children become your friends. Of course, you don't want to be their best friend and have to remain being their parent, but yet, there's nothing richer.
mhm. Well, I love that. Such a great reminder. And I do have friends who have had children, like have had unexpected pregnancies in their 40s. And it's
Uh-huh.
funny because a lot of their other friends have said, like, first thing, oh, how old are you going to be when they're in college? Like, do you know
Hmm.
how depressing that is?
Yeah.
And all I have seen, like you said, is the delight. Like when you
Yeah.
see their Instagram stories or Facebook, posts and stuff, like the delight that baby brings to their family when they have like teenagers in the house too, and just everyone is loving on that child. And you're
Yeah.
right. Like I think it's so easy to get up, like our minds wrapped up in the world's systems,
Mm.
what the world says. Oh, do you have enough for retirement? Do you have enough for a college fund? Oh, you're going to be old and gray and ragged by
Yes.
the time, your kids doing this or that. And it's just like, whose truth is that we're believing? That is so right.
Yes. It's sad. It
Yeah.
really is sad for women. Maybe just because I am a woman, I think more about the woman's perspective, but I just feel like you're being so shortchanged when you buy in,
Mm,
and like we are hardwired to nurture, to love, to, you know, raise children, and to be told it, like the best thing that you can actually do, and to buy that lie is like rid your body of that baby before they ever are even born, is
mm,
so incredibly dark and wrong, and it's just such a lie. And the person that I think is so the victim in that lie is the mom, because at some point it's going to dawn on her, and it's just something she's going to have to live with. Not that the Lord won't heal her heart and allow her to go on and live a healthy life, but it's just it's a it's a harsh reality in our world today.
mm. Wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That is a really important message. Um, so this morning I was reading my Bible and I just wanted to share Psalm 68, verse
Mm.
5. A father to the fatherless, a defender of widows is God in his holy dwelling. God sets the lonely in families. And, throughout the scriptures, in the Old and the New Testaments, the Lord talks about just taking care of orphans and widows. And one of the reasons why, I don't know if my listeners know this or not about my family life, but why adoption is so important to me is it's something that the Lord really has planted in me through my parents since I was born. And that's because I have an older sister that's adopted.
Yeah.
And so, Tracey, just to encourage you, just the legacy the Lord is building in your family. Because I
Yeah.
think I look at my, this past summer we got to go home to my parents, and all my sisters live there, and I have 11 nieces and nephews
Mm.
in my family line. And I just think about just even how our kids. So I love my sister. I'm so grateful that the Lord gave my parents a vision to adopt
Mm.
before I was born or came into existence.
Mm.
Um, you know, I love that the Lord gave my parents that vision, but I look at her kids. Now she has 4 beautiful kids,
Mm.
how important they are in our family, and
Yeah.
how, even like our kids are like best friends with each
Hmm.
other. And I look at the legacy, even just of how the Lord saw our family just long, like we have such short-sightedness, but the
Yes.
Lord has such long vision. He
Uh-huh.
can look into eternity and he sees honestly, like for my family, for example, our family line.
Mm-hmm.
And like if my parents hadn't adopted my sister, her 4 kids, just my kids wouldn't have their beautiful cousins, best friends. You know what I'm saying? And that,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's something I was really thinking about this summer, just seeing all the kids growing, because some of them are young adults now, and
Mhm.
teens, and it's just so beautiful how much the kids love each other. Like they
That
just have a natural connection, you
that is
know?
cool. And yeah, that's another real like icing on the cake of adopting is you just constantly have that sense of the Lord's hand is on this child and he really has a plan for them. And you can
Mm.
really sense the Lord's favor over them in different scenarios. But my younger daughter, she this is just a unique little icing on the cake story too. But we were told that because of the alcohol abuse in the womb, that she would have fetal alcohol syndrome and that her face would be deformed. And so, that was kind of a hard thing to stomach, just all the therapy that would take and the special needs that would bring into our family that was already so full. But just I feel like this is just kind of the Lord's sweetness that she is just like a stunning child. Like she's beautiful. And everywhere we go, people say that to her, which, you have to be careful about. But the fact that we were told that her face would be deformed and she is like, her face is so perfect. It's just almost kind of funny, and um,
Wow.
she has there's no fetal alcohol syndrome at all. Like she's very smart. She learns very easily. There's just nothing. So yeah, just how God protected her. And I mean, she was the 11th birth in her mother's life, and
Wow.
mother is no longer alive. She had 2 more children after her, and they're dispersed. But the fact that God just removed her, she was actually the only one out of all of those children that the mom made an adoption plan for. So you just really see God's hand is on her life for sure. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. What a testimony, seriously. I just love that you guys fought through that doctor's diagnosis,
Hmm.
because that is scary.
Yeah.
That is like that unknown factor. That's so scary. And you guys, I love the courage that you guys walk through,
Thank you.
because I'm sure that you had to work through a lot of fears
Hmm.
and still choose to step forward, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say one last thing about my 2 sons that were, 8 and 10ish when we adopted. And, you know, being children in a family with only 2 kids is quite different than being in a family with 4 kids. And especially, 2 stronger personalities of our 2 youngest. And, sometimes I have felt like, I felt like the enemy wants me to feel that, oh, well, our boys have kind of gotten the short end of the stick in all of this
Mm.
because of sacrifices financially that it's taken for 4 kids, or time wise that it's taken for 4 kids. And just different things like that. But in all reality, I feel like the Lord has really shown me. And I would say this about any big family, not just because my girls are adopted, but just how he has used my girls to train my boys to not be incredibly selfish people, to, know how to take care of younger children, love younger children, train younger children. Both of my boys are really good in children's ministry. And I think so much of that is just that they've lived it, not that it's been easy for them, because in all reality, it has been hard for them at times, but I think it's just made them better people.
I love that. I love your kids. My kids loved playing with them back in Kansas City. Yeah. So, but I agree with that totally, having a larger family. is like
Mhm.
when I see the kids loving each other and serving each other and learning to sacrifice at a young age,
Mhm.
or have only built their character, like you're sharing, like it hasn't lessened them, it has actually like given them a stronger character, and just honestly I think sometimes tenacity.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
True.
something, I love that you share that. Thanks, Tracy. Something I just wanted to use this time to is just to share exactly what you said, is maybe not every family is called to adopt. Perhaps, and even what you said, probably not.
Mhm.
Every family may not be called to adopt, but I do believe the Lord uses the body of Christ
Mhm.
to bless one another. And so
Yeah.
if one family is called to adopt, and I know in our former community, people would do like fundraisers for adoption, or sometimes I see fundraisers on Facebook for adoption and things like that. I just want to encourage every person listening as a believer. So the Lord might never call you to adopt, but I feel like there's ways that we can support those who have adopted, whether through helping their adoption funds, or whether through helping honestly in a practical way, babysitting. Like let's say
Cute.
you know an adoptive family in the community and they just need a date night
Mhm.
once a month, give your time to babysit. Or
Yeah.
yeah, or just like um just other things like I saw on Facebook the other day this young mom who adopted, and just how some family in the community blessed her with all this baby stuff,
Mhm.
diapers, or baby toys, or things like that that you could sell
Mhm.
on Facebook and get some money, or
Mhm.
you could also donate to just a
Yeah.
family that like, you know what I mean? And
That's
so I think the Lord could use all those things. Tracy, do you have more ideas? I would love to hear.
well, I want to remind you that you guys, I'll just tell your listeners that you guys had considered adoption and told the Lord you were open to it and spent some time fundraising. And then the Lord just never opened the door and placed that child in your family. And so, why? We'll never necessarily know the answer to that. But you took your adoption fund and put it into our adoption fund, which made the adoption of our second child possible. And so, that was huge. And that was a very big example of doing that for someone. But even just praying for them, and what a couple of things that people have done with my girls are like making yourself almost like a family member to them. Like I have one of my friends is Zoe's godmother, which we've just chosen godmothers more for fun, just to have somebody else to invest in their life. But she always remembers her birthday. And it's really interesting because sometimes when Zoe's feeling sad about being adopted, she'll reach out to this friend. Her name is Sissy. And she'll say, I want to call Sissy, or I want to make something for Sissy and send it to her. And it's almost like
Oh,
because maybe, Sissy is a tangible, distant friend that has loved her well. There's something that has really blessed Zoe's life. And Tess has a godmother that's done the same, named Denise. So, just seeing, I mean, I think sadly, this is so, so sad, but sometimes for adopted children, they're not 100% accepted by the extended family. And, having a kind of a surrogate aunt or uncle, or just somebody that really sees that child and they become their special, whatever it is, friend, godmother, and just, gift them little things, pray for them, let them know you're thinking about them, would be significant.
wow. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that your daughters have that, because that's, I'm sure when you pick those godmothers, you didn't know exactly how that would all play out, and how the Lord really used that as a
Yeah.
significant relationship in their lives. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, as you could tell, Tracey and I could talk forever about adoption or just things in life. And so, Tracey, thank you so much for sharing your family with our listeners, because I just hope that, some lives are touched in some way, that we can each get behind something in adoption and just touch the Lord's heart in that way.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed sharing.
Oh, I've loved our time together. I hope everyone listening has an awesome week. Bye bye.